Hello, my amazing friends. Today, I have something truly special for you. Please listen carefully, because this story can change the way you think, speak, and feel about English. The man we are talking about today understood the human heart like no one else in history. He explored love, power, betrayal, ambition, jealousy, and hope. These are the emotions that make us human. You may already know his famous works like Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, and Othello. These are not just stories. They are reflections of real life and real feelings. His influence on the English language is enormous. English would not be the same without him. Many words, phrases, and expressions we use today were first created by his brilliant mind. But here is the most inspiring part. He was not born rich. He did not come from a powerful family. He did not study at a great university. Yet he became the greatest writer in history. If you are learning English today, if you struggle to express your thoughts, or if you feel unsure about your skills, this story is for you. William Shakespeare also began as an ordinary boy, just like anyone else. This is a story of struggle, passion, and unstoppable creativity. So relax, listen slowly, and enjoy. This story will help improve your English listening skills, and it may also give you new inspiration and confidence. It was a cold April day in the year 1564 in a small English town called Stratford-upon-Avon. On that day, a baby boy was born. His parents, John and Mary Shakespeare, held him in their arms without knowing that their son would one day change the world. They named him William Shakespeare. Stratford-upon-Avon was not a big city. It was a quiet town with narrow streets, wooden houses, and a peaceful river flowing through it. The people of the town lived simple lives. Most worked as farmers, traders, or craftsmen. William's father, John Shakespeare, was a glove maker. He made leather gloves and sold them in the town market. He was a hard-working man and was respected by the community. William's mother, Mary, came from a well-known farming family. She was kind, strong, and caring. William was the third of 8 children. Their house was always full of noise, laughter, and daily activity. But William was a little different from the others. He was very curious. He watched people closely. He listened carefully to how they spoke, how they laughed, and how they cried. At that time, he did not know it, but this deep curiosity would later help him become the greatest playwright of all time. In those days, there were no televisions, no mobile phones, and no internet. People enjoyed stories for entertainment. Traveling actors often came to town and performed plays in the streets. Young William watched them with wide eyes and great excitement. He loved stories, legends, folk tales, and heroic tales from history. Each story filled his mind with new ideas and made his imagination grow stronger every day. When William was 7 years old, he started school. The school was small and simple, with wooden benches and a strict teacher. The classroom was quiet, and lessons were serious. But what William learned there would shape his future. He studied Latin, history, poetry, and literature. Latin was the language of educated people at that time, and young William became very good at it. He read great stories from ancient Rome and Greece. He learned from writers like Ovid, Plutarch, and Virgil. Their words stayed in his mind and later inspired many of his famous plays. William was not only a student who loved books. He also loved nature. He enjoyed walking through green fields, watching the river flow, and listening to birds sing. He played with his friends, ran through the streets, and laughed like any other child. But deep inside him, there was something special. He had a strong hunger for words, stories, and meaning. He felt emotions deeply and loved to understand people and life. Then, when life seemed normal, hard times came to his family. William's father, who was once a respected businessman, began to face serious money problems. He had borrowed money for his work, but the business did not go well. The family slowly lost their comfort. There were days when money was short, and even buying food became difficult. William saw the stress in his father's tired eyes. He heard the worry in his mother's voice. He learned early that life could change very quickly. Instead of feeling hopeless, William became more observant. He watched people carefully. He felt sadness, fear, and hope deeply. He learned that life is full of highs and lows. These lessons stayed with him and later appeared in his writing. His plays would show joy and pain, success and failure, love and loss, just like real life. Even as a child, William had a natural talent for words. He enjoyed making small poems and rhymes. He liked acting and pretending to be different characters. He told stories to entertain his friends and make them laugh. At that time, no one in Stratford-upon-Avon knew that this playful boy would one day become the greatest writer in history. To them, he was just William, a boy with a curious mind and big dreams. As William grew older, life continued to test him. By the time he was 14, he had already read many books, heard countless stories, and watched traveling actors perform in his town. But his father's money problems became worse. The family struggled more than before. William saw how quickly respect, comfort, and security could disappear. He understood an important truth: nothing in life lasts forever, not money, not status, and not even happiness. These hard experiences did not break him. Instead, they made him stronger, wiser, and more creative. He began to understand people better. He learned how fear, hope, love, and ambition live inside the human heart. Without knowing it, he was preparing to write stories that would touch the world. Then, something happened that changed his life forever. When William turned 18, he was no longer a child. He was a young man. And like many young men, he fell in love. Her name was Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway was a beautiful, intelligent, and independent woman. There was, however, something unusual about their love story. Anne was 26 years old, 8 years older than William. In those times, it was rare for a younger man to marry an older woman. Society expected men to marry younger women, but love does not follow rules. William was deeply in love with Anne, and age did not matter to him. Then something unexpected happened. Anne Hathaway became pregnant before they were married. In the 16th century, this was a very serious matter. Society was strict, and a child born outside of marriage brought shame to both families. There was fear, pressure, and urgency. Because of this, William and Anne had to marry quickly. In November 1582, at just 18 years old, William Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway. He was still trying to understand life, and suddenly he was preparing to become a father. Only 6 months after the wedding, Anne gave birth to their first child, a baby girl named Susanna. Life did not slow down. 2 years later, in 1585, Anne gave birth to twins, a boy named Hamnet and a girl named Judith. At just 21 years old, William Shakespeare was now a husband and the father of 3 children. Responsibility came early, and life began to move very fast. But there was a serious problem. How would William support his growing family? His father's business was still failing, and money was always short. William had no stable job and no clear future. He did not want to become a glove maker like his father. He owned no land, had no title, and no wealth. What he did have was something invisible but powerful: his words, his stories, and a burning desire to create something meaningful. Then comes the most mysterious chapter of his life, a period historians call the lost years. From 1585 to 1592, Shakespeare seemed to disappear. There are no clear records of where he lived or how he earned money during these 7 years. He was no longer recorded in Stratford, and history fell silent about him. Yet somehow, he survived and slowly prepared for greatness. Many theories exist about what William may have done during these years. Some believe he worked as a schoolteacher. Because he was well educated, he may have taught children or worked as a private tutor for a wealthy family. Others believe he joined a traveling theater company. He may have worked as an actor, learning how to perform on stage, understanding human emotions, and studying the power of storytelling. These years, though hidden, may have shaped the artist he was becoming. Others say Shakespeare got into legal trouble and had to leave Stratford. One popular story suggests that he was caught hunting illegally on the land of a rich man. In those days, this was a serious crime, and to avoid punishment, he may have been forced to run away. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain: when Shakespeare reappeared in history in 1592, he was no longer just a small-town boy. He was in London, ready to take on the world. London in the late 1500s was a city full of energy, ambition, and opportunity. It was the heart of England's theatre scene, alive with actors, writers, and poets, all competing to make a name for themselves. Shakespeare arrived with no money, no connections, and no experience. But he had something far more powerful: talent, determination, and an unstoppable passion for storytelling. He began working as an actor in small theater groups. He watched everything closely: how people spoke, how they moved, and how they expressed emotions. Slowly, he began to understand human nature. Before long, he started writing his own plays. At first, they were simple and entertaining, written to make people laugh. But as time passed, Shakespeare realized he could do more. He could write stories that made people think, feel deeply, and question life itself. By 1592, Shakespeare was becoming well known in London's theatre world. However, not everyone welcomed his success. A famous playwright named Robert Greene attacked him in a letter, calling him an upstart crow, meaning a nobody who dared to act like a great writer. But Shakespeare did not allow this insult to break him. Instead, he worked harder. He wrote more plays, performed in more theaters, and slowly earned the respect of both actors and audiences. Then, in 1593, disaster struck. A deadly disease called the plague spread across London. Theaters were closed, and Shakespeare suddenly had no work. Once again, life tested him. But he did not give up. Instead of writing plays, he turned to poetry. During this time, he wrote 2 famous long poems, Venus and Adonis and the Rape of Lycoris. These poems brought him wealth and recognition. Even Queen Elizabeth I admired his work, and his name continued to grow. When the theatres reopened in 1594, Shakespeare returned to what he loved most: writing and performing plays. He became a member of a powerful acting company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. He was not only the writer of the plays, he also acted in them. His stories explored every corner of the human heart, love and heartbreak in Romeo and Juliet, power and ambition in Macbeth, betrayal and revenge in Hamlet, and jealousy and madness in Othello. By the late 1590s, William Shakespeare was one of the most famous playwrights in England. But he was not satisfied. He wanted more success, more influence, and more stories that would live forever. And that desire led to one of his greatest achievements. In 1599, Shakespeare and his company built the Globe Theatre, a place where his dreams could finally take shape, a home for his words, his imagination, and his legacy. Something extraordinary happened when Shakespeare and his acting company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men, made a bold decision. They decided to build their own theatre. They called it the Globe Theatre. Imagine the scene, a massive circular building with an open roof, sunlight pouring in, and thousands of excited people rushing inside to find a place to stand or sit. The stage was ready for some of the greatest plays ever written. This theatre became Shakespeare's home, his dream, and his kingdom. At the Globe Theatre, Shakespeare performed his greatest works. Hamlet explored revenge, madness, and fate. Macbeth told a dark story of power, ambition, and guilt. Othello revealed the tragic destruction caused by love and jealousy. Julius Caesar showed political ambition, loyalty, and betrayal. These plays were not just entertainment. They were powerful stories that made people think deeply, feel strongly, and question life itself. As his fame grew, Shakespeare's success brought him wealth beyond imagination. By the early 1600s, he was not just a famous writer, he was one of the richest playwrights in England. He owned shares in the Globe Theatre, which meant he earned money every time a play was performed. His plays and poems were published and sold all across England. He also received royal support, showing that even the highest rulers admired his work. With his earnings, Shakespeare bought several properties. One of them was a grand house in Stratford-upon-Avon called New Place. At a time when most playwrights struggled just to survive, Shakespeare lived a comfortable and wealthy life. Yet fame and fortune were not enough for him. He wanted something greater, lasting respect and honor. In 1603, a historic event changed everything. Queen Elizabeth I, who had long supported Shakespeare, died. Her successor was King James I. At first, people feared that the new king might not like theatre and might even close the playhouses. But Shakespeare had nothing to fear. King James loved his work deeply. He enjoyed Shakespeare's plays so much that he personally invited the acting company to perform for him. Then something incredible happened. King James granted Shakespeare's company a royal title. They were now called the King's Men. This was the highest honor a playwright and acting company could receive. It meant they were official actors of the royal court, protected and supported by the king himself. They performed for the most powerful people in England. William Shakespeare had risen from being the son of a simple glove maker to becoming the most celebrated playwright in English history. Between 1603 and 1611, his creativity reached its peak, and his legacy became impossible to ignore. Shakespeare wrote some of his deepest and most unforgettable plays during this period. These were not just stories for the stage, they were reflections of life itself, power, love, loss, and forgiveness. King Lear told the heartbreaking story of a father betrayed by his own children. Macbeth revealed the dark and destructive side of ambition. The Tempest was a magical tale about forgiveness, wisdom, and new beginnings. These plays showed a deeper understanding of the human soul. As his writing changed, so did Shakespeare himself. He was growing older and wiser. He had experienced fame, fortune, betrayal, and personal loss. His words became darker, more emotional, and deeply philosophical. His characters felt more real than ever before, because they carried the weight of his own life experiences. Shakespeare was no longer just entertaining people, he was speaking to their hearts. By 1611, Shakespeare had achieved everything he had ever dreamed of. He was famous, wealthy, and respected by kings and nobles. He had risen from being a small-town boy in Stratford-upon-Avon to becoming the greatest playwright in history. His tragedies, comedies, and historical plays changed the way people thought about love, power, fate, and human nature. He had performed for royalty and built a legacy that would never fade. In 1613, Shakespeare made a decision that surprised many people. He chose to retire. After years of living in London, writing, acting, and directing plays, he felt a deep longing for home. He missed the quiet streets of Stratford, the green fields, the flowing rivers, and most of all, his family. So he returned to New Place, his grand house in Stratford, planning to spend the rest of his life in peace, reflection, and comfort. In his final years, Shakespeare lived a quiet and peaceful life in Stratford. He would wake up early in the morning and walk through his gardens, enjoying the beauty of nature. He often sat by the fireplace, reading books, and thinking deeply about the life he had lived. He spent precious time with his daughters, Susanna and Judith, talking about love, life, and the future. Sometimes, visitors came from London to meet him, asking for advice about plays and poetry. Even though he had retired, his mind was never at rest. It is said that he could sit for hours lost in thought, softly whispering lines of poetry to himself. In 1616, something unexpected happened. One day, Shakespeare attended a dinner party with his friends. It was a joyful evening filled with laughter, conversation, and wine. Soon after, he fell ill. Some say it was a fever, while others believe it was a sickness caused by the cold weather. No one knows the exact reason. Within days, his health declined rapidly. His family and close friends gathered around him, knowing that the greatest writer in history was nearing the end of his journey. On April 23, 1616, at the age of 52, William Shakespeare took his final breath. The world lost a genius, but his words would never die. Before his death, Shakespeare wrote a short poem that became his final message to the world. He knew that people might one day disturb his grave, so he wrote an epitaph warning them to leave his body in peace. Even in death, his words were powerful, unforgettable, and eternal. When Shakespeare passed away, Stratford fell silent. People gathered at Holy Trinity Church, where he had been baptized as a baby, to say their final goodbyes. The church filled with actors, writers, family members, friends, and simple townsfolk who had known him since childhood. Tears were shed, prayers were whispered, and his body was laid to rest in the same town where his story had begun. There were no grand monuments or golden tombs, only the quiet dignity of a life that had changed the world forever. He was laid to rest in a simple grave marked only with his own words, but little did the world know that this was only the beginning of his legacy. Shakespeare's body may have been buried, but his words refused to die. His plays continued to be performed, his books continued to be read, and his name continued to be spoken. Years passed, then decades, then centuries, yet Shakespeare remained alive in the hearts of people across the world. His works were translated into almost every language on earth. His stories inspired millions of writers, filmmakers, poets, and artists. His words became part of everyday speech, with famous phrases like "to be or not to be," "all the world's a stage," and "a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." His life proved that words have power, the power to inspire, the power to heal, and the power to change the world. Even today, more than 400 years later, Shakespeare is everywhere. His plays are performed in theaters across the globe. His books are studied in schools and universities. His words appear in movies, songs, and speeches. This is because Shakespeare understood human nature better than anyone else. He wrote about love, betrayal, ambition, jealousy, fate, and dreams, emotions that every human being can relate to. Through his stories, he showed us that love can be beautiful but also tragic, as seen in Romeo and Juliet. He showed how power can corrupt even the strongest hearts in Macbeth. He revealed that betrayal often comes from those closest to us in Julius Caesar. He reminded us that life is full of uncertainty and mystery in Hamlet. His stories help us understand who we are and who we can become. If Shakespeare were alive today, he would have one powerful message for you: dream big, tell your story, and never stop believing in yourself. He was just a small-town boy from Stratford who dared to dream beyond the ordinary, and today his name is written in history forever. William Shakespeare's life may have ended, but his story will never end. And now, that story is in your hands. His words are yours to read, to learn from, and to share with the world. My amazing friends, you have a dream too. Maybe you want to be a writer, an actor, a speaker, a leader, or a creator, someone who leaves a mark on this world. But sometimes fear stops you. People doubt you. You feel like giving up. Let me tell you something powerful today. William Shakespeare was just like you. He was born in a small town. He did not come from a rich family. He had no powerful connections, and no one believed he would become famous. But he had one powerful thing, a dream. And that dream changed the world forever. Now it is your turn. You have a fire inside you. You have a story to tell. You have a voice that matters. Do not let fear stop you. Do not let people tell you that you cannot do it. Because the truth is, you can. You are stronger than you think. You are greater than you believe. You are only one step away from changing your life forever. So my friends, never stop chasing your dream. Start today. Work hard. Never give up. And one day, just like Shakespeare, your name will be remembered. If this story inspired you even a little bit, then like this video so I know you felt the power of this message. Comment below and tell me, what is your dream? Let's inspire each other. Subscribe and hit the bell icon, because we are on a journey of learning, growing, and becoming unstoppable together. My amazing friends, your future is waiting for you. Go out there and make history. And always remember, it is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. William Shakespeare said it, and maybe, just maybe, you are the next great storyteller. The world is waiting for you. See you in the next video. Stay inspired. Stay unstoppable.